So we're just about halfway past the midpoint of our guide season here in Maine, and far and away one of the most successful fly patterns to date, whether we're fishing really small creeks or big rivers, has been kind of classic spider style wet fly. Now we like to fish ours pretty small, size 16 to even a size 20, but a lot of people have trouble hackling that size of hook. We have one trick that's going to help out. Let me show you what that is. So for this fly pattern, you only need a small selection of materials. You're going to start with an all-purpose size 16 dry fly hook or any other kind of comparable. Then you're going to go for a smaller sized thread. We like to go for a 70 Denier Danville. We're going to do black. We're also going to have a red. And then the last thing you're going to use is a soft hackle hen saddle patch. So this is completely up to you what color you would like to use. We're going to show you how to tie a black one. You can also use speckled brown, you can use ginger. All of those variations have been successful for us. So we'll start by just tying in your thread. And we're going to leave a little bit of headspace up at the top. You're going to start kind of at a hook eye or so back, tie back over that thread, and then trim the excess free. Next, you're going to kind of build up that body. I like to go all the way down into the bend of that hook. I think it helps give a little bit more of a maybe natural curvature to the fly. I don't think a lot of flies swim in a straight line. I think a lot of them are bending and twisting, at least that's what I've observed. So I like to add just a little bit of bend toward that back. We're going to start halfway between the hook eye and the hook point. And this is where we're going to start to tie backwards and tie in our hackle. Now, this is the part that usually trips people up. So when we're selecting something off our hen saddle, a lot of people are going to say, well, all of these are a little too big for this size of fly, so they're going to just tie something a little extra long and call it good. I always like to make sure that my hackles are less than the hook shank length. Most of, I think, the insects in the pupa and the emerging patterns that I've seen in the water tend to have legs or horns or something that aren't quite the length of the actual body. So that's what we're going to try to imitate. So we're going to go ahead and just select any old feather off of this so I can show you how to make it work. Now there are definitely some feathers closer to the bottom of that patch that are going to be a little thinner and have some shorter fibers. And a lot of people are just going to go for that because they think that's the only thing that works. However, they would be wrong. So we're going to take our feather, and as you can see, if we were just to tie this on as is, it might be okay, but it would be quite a bit longer than the hook shank length. And that's not the way that I want to tie this. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to trim off some of those lower fibers. We're going to grab our hackle pliers, take this feather in right at the tip, start to pull back some of those fibers until we have a nice little V. And then we're going to cut, as you would any old hackle, a little catch, a little triangle shape in at the top. And instead of catching this in up at the top, doing some hackling, finishing it there, we're going to start kind of down here. So as you can see, we're positioning this roughly halfway, again, between the hook eye and the hook point. And that is where we're going to catch it in. So we'll keep wrapping there. Once that's secure, I'm going to grab our hackle pliers. Make sure that hold is nice and good. Wet our fingers, draw back initially some of these fibers just so we can get a nice clean wrap. And then we're going to go ahead and hackle around all of these fibers, just right there in the middle of the fly. And as you're turning this, you might find it helps to also turn the hackle tool in your hands. So some of those fibers are going to start twisting, and I found that if I twist the actual tool in my hands, I can kind of counteract that habit of the fiber. So once you get all of those in, we're going to catch that tail end with our thread, give it a couple turns, make sure it's nice and secure, begin to work that thread up towards the eye. At this point, you can let go of that hackle fiber, draw back some of those fibers, and then just catch that in securely. Trim away that stem, and then we're going to be ready for the next step. So before we bring all of these fibers up, because if they're right in the middle, honestly, it looks a little funny, right? They're super long, they're right in the middle. We have a lot of space up at the front, we have a lot of space down at the back. Honestly, this would probably catch fish as is. There are a lot of fly patterns that, if done wrong, catch fish. But we're going to go ahead and take this all the way up to the top. And this is where we're going to switch over to our red thread. Now, I like to do a black and red spider. So I like to make sure that the head has a little bit of color in it. There's no natural that I have found that has this red head. I could be wrong. There could definitely be something. But I like to just make sure I have a little bit more color at the top. I found that, especially in my Holy Grail patterns, whenever I have some red thread, I tend to get more hits. Maybe because it's just a little bit more visible, maybe because it actually indicates that there's an easier forage available for those fish. I'm not sure why, but this is the way I'm going to do it. So now we have the base of the red head at the top. We have our hackle fiber tied in, and then we have the body down below. So the next thing we're going to do is make sure we position our red thread all the way up toward the hook eye. And we're going to, using our fingers, draw all these fibers forward. And what you'll notice as this happens is that we build up this kind of bulky upper section just right there. And that, to me, is a really excellent imitation of a wing case or a thorax. So you have a really thin body down toward the end, just thread, and you could rib this if you wanted to get extra fancy. Then we transition into this nice wing case made of the same fibers that we're drawing forward. And so we'll hold those fibers in our lead hand. We're going to take that thread, catch that in up top. I usually do 3 turns just to make sure that's secure. And then we're going to take one extra firm turn, tighter turn. You can see that that kind of flares those front end fibers. So now you might start to notice that those fibers are significantly shorter. So when we draw them back again, they're going to be a little bit less than the body of that fly. And now the best tool I found for doing that, you can just use your thumb, you can use your finger, you can push those back. But if you really want to get a nice circular coverage from the front of the fly, you can use the back end of your whip finish tool. So what we do is we just slide that little tube end directly onto the hook eye, and you'll see it pushes all of those fibers back. So once you kind of wiggle that in there, you can hold these with your offhand. And then you can begin to secure those at the front of the fly again. Now, your thread is probably going to want to slip forward a little bit, but once you start to make tighter and tighter turns, those hackle fibers will begin to behave. And from that point, you can see that we have exactly the little tuft at the front that we want. It's less than the length of the body. We have a nice thorax built up, a nice little wing case. We have some little leg impressions. And the last thing we have to do is give this a whip finish. So whenever I'm tying these off, whenever I'm tying these off, I like to give it a counterclockwise spin to tighten that thread, and that'll help it bite a little bit more. I'll just go ahead and redo this right quick. It'll help it bite a little bit more into those softer fibers, and this will hold that thread in place. Whereas if you have a flatter thread, it's going to maybe slip a little bit more like it did just then. So we'll take our whip finish tool, we'll give this 1, 2, 3, just to catch it right there. We'll give it one more toward the back of that head, 2, 3. We'll tighten that up, clip it loose. And there we go. We have a nice little black spider-inspired wet fly. So again, this works in size 16. You can tie this and use this hackling technique down to a size 20 with not a whole lot of extra effort. But this has been far and away one of our most successful flies this season. We're trailing it behind streamers, we're using it as a dropper tag under our flies, and the fish are taking it without so much as a second thought. I hope you enjoyed this fly pattern and this hackling technique. Please like, share, and subscribe if you feel so compelled, and we'll see you next time.